What makes you look so good? Why don't you love me like I know you could?
All right, 5 minutes after 10 o'clock. Thank you for tuning in. Beautiful Friday morning, and it's kind of beautiful in here as well. Got a couple of beautiful ladies in here with me. One of them is Kelli Hart, and I don't know the other lady. Do I? You look familiar. You look familiar. Anyway.
You're about to know her.
I'm about to know. Well, good morning to both of you. It's
Good
time
morning.
to hear something good, right?
Yes, Ocala Magazine radio time.
Yes, it
Always
is.
your favorite time of day, right?
I enjoy it.
Hopefully.
Yes.
Well, with me today is Melissa Townsend. Melissa's featured in our January Black and White special edition issue because she was chosen as Ocala Magazine's Person of the Year.
All right.
So that's a really huge thing for us to be able to bring her in today and get to know her a little bit better. If you've not read the story about Melissa, there's tons of accomplishments that she has done that I'm going to let her go into more detail about. But it's a beautiful spread. We called her our art angel, which, you know, you'll find out also why. Once you know exactly how much she's done for our city and for the arts, you will better understand why we call her that. So good morning, Melissa. Thanks for being here. And first, let me say, because there's always that question of how do we decide who's going to be our Person of the Year, much like when we have our 40 under 40 or Best of the Best. That's always the question. And so as a collaborative, we sit down and we create a list of people in our community that have made a large impact in the past year. And, you know, sometimes it can be somebody that has maybe started a new business that's impacted our community and created jobs. It could be somebody related to charity. It could be somebody that's just single-handedly through blood, sweat, and tears and their generous time made some impacts and changes in our community. So we felt like Melissa was the perfect person because of all the things that she has done and her generosity to our city and her dedication to what she does. So Melissa, I'll let you go into a little bit of detail about first what you do, your role, your job position, and then we'll go from there.
Well, I am the city of Ocala's community cultural arts manager. And in this position, primarily, I'm to be a facilitator. But it's a new position, new for not just the city of Ocala, but first cultural arts administrator, you know, in the community in this type of a leadership role. And it was a needed position. The city is striving to provide leadership and support to our cultural arts community, both individual artists and organizations. And as a facilitator, I can, you know, have the ability and the support staff with the city team to bring our organizations and artists together and make big moves. And so that's really what I focus on. Sometimes, you know, those are big moves that are suggested by other individuals, organizations that have a need. Sometimes they are moves that stem from myself or the city staff. And an example of that would be the sculpture competition at Tuscola Park. The former assistant city manager, John Zobler, had a vision to bring sculptures to the park and came into the Discovery Center one day and stirred this pot big time with Suzanne and I and said, you know what, this is so fabulous what's going on inside the Discovery Center. Let's bring it out into the park, and couldn't we have public art out there, and what if it had an educational component? And that was the start of the sculpture competition. We wrote some grants and you know, did a lot of research to determine what would be the best avenue to bring sculptures to Tuscola, and it resulted in the competition program. And then I'm just one person, so I ran around and sought partners, and we have like the dream team behind that program. We have that Appleton Museum, Fine Arts for Ocala, Marion Cultural Alliance. And so it started out as a vision from the city and a program that I researched and went after for funding, but then we brought in partners. And so we have experts in each little segment of that we need to make that program, you know, happen and be a success. So that's what I do. That's been one of the big projects, and now will become an annual competition for the park. I'm real proud of that.
They're beautiful. I had the opportunity on Christmas Day I just happened to be near Tuscaloosa and kind of went for a little bit of a walk and went through the park and saw the sculpture. Have you seen these sculptures, Larry? Have you been down there to see them?
Yes.
What's your favorite one?
Oh my goodness, I don't know.
I like the one that you were photographed in front of, I guess just because it's reflective and it's, has all the mirrors and stuff. But just like give us a little synopsis about some of because some of them are interactive.
Yes, we have kinetic sculptures. There's some of them move, like Evolution of Birds and Angels. That sculpture in particular, it has mirrors. The mirrors move with the wind. It has wind chimes, so it produces sound as well. So it is producing sound, and it bounces light off of the surroundings. And all of that changes depending on the weather and the amount of wind we have each day. And it's something that the public is encouraged to touch. Children really love that sculpture. We have a couple others that move as well. One of them is Blue Planet. And then there's the piece right in front of the Discovery Center called Childhood Memories. And that has different ABC blocks that have been reproduced and stacked. And each one of them spins, and you can spell fun art for all.
How nice.
And one word at a time and line them up.
That's
so
nice.
There's something for everybody. Some of the sculptures are very abstract, and others are a little bit more realistic and classical in nature. And I think every individual that I've spoken to falls in love with at least one piece out there. There's something for everyone.
There's one or two that are local. They're local artists.
Yes, there's two pieces that were produced by local artists. Childhood Memories was produced by Mike Zeke from Zeke Technique, and Lofted, the big sculpture that interacts with the pond, was produced by John Gamache, and he actually lives just about 3 blocks from Tuscaloosa Park.
Oh, really?
So that piece
nice.
was specifically, as well as Childhood Memories and a few other sculptures that are there, was created for that park. And John even, did some research as to where he thought might be the best location to display it, and we were in agreement with that. We're real fortunate. We have pieces that are local, and we have a sculpture that came from as far as Canada.
That's amazing. And whenever you guys started that process, were you met with resistance? Was there any obstacles? Because my biggest concern was when I heard this was happening, I thought, gosh, I hope people respect the sculptures. And because there's always those people. You just, there's always those people that will disrespect something so meaningful and valuable. And so I thought, gosh, I hope everybody not only embraces it, comes down and looks at the sculptures and enjoys them, but that they respect them for what they are.
Right. And that is always a concern with public art and in really every community. That was a thought at Tuscaloosa. It's a park that's open to the public during the day. At night, there's not a lot of light except for around, the sports facilities. So that was something that we, thought about a lot and thought about with the placement of the sculptures, where would be the best locations to put them. But really, at the end of the day, you got to roll the dice. And when I was doing the research, I went and talked to quite a few different communities, and just about everybody at some point has had some sort of issue, with displaying public art. And DeLand laughed and said, we actually had a piece that got stolen, and I was like, really? How did you handle that? I was absolutely mortified. And the gal I was speaking to just laughed, and she says, you know what? It was the best PR we ever had.
Oh, yeah, I guess so.
We should all go around and steal each other's sculptures. And she said, luckily, they received theirs back within 3 days, and it was returned. We, knock on wood, we haven't had any issues at Tuscaloosa Park at all. Everybody is really thrilled to have those pieces there. The community in surrounding neighborhood is extremely proud of them, and hopefully we won't have any issues.
And that's not the only project that she's involved with, obviously. That was a really big one and an exciting one. But you also were involved in helping get FAFO back downtown.
Yes.
That's huge. And I want to thank you specifically, myself. But, I got a lot of feedback at FAFO this year and from business people and vendors and just people that were there admiring. And we are all really happy to have that back downtown.
It's... Me too. It was really, something that kind of came full circle for me personally. When I was growing up here in Ocala, my artwork was displayed in the Ocala Art Festival, and I'm just a huge fan of Fine Arts for Ocala, the organization that executes that event and the Symphony Under the Stars event for Mother's Day every year. I think those are two of our real signature community events we have. And when I came home in 2009, I was like, what in the world happened? Where is the Ocala Art Festival? And I was really miffed that it was out at the McPherson Complex. Not that there's anything wrong with the McPherson Complex, but typically festivals of this magnitude are held within a downtown core. And it creates a different energy level for the festival itself. And of course, there's an economic impact when that happens. And so then when I became employed at the city, and I kind of learned the backstory as to why, unfortunately, that they had left downtown, that we had construction, and it became difficult for them to execute the festival, and we probably weren't as accommodating as we needed to be, and so they moved. So that was really an honor to work with them on bringing the festival back downtown. It was a huge undertaking. We did have 3 days of road closures, and so there was a lot of legwork and communication efforts to work with the downtown businesses and have them understand, that we would do everything we possibly could so that even though we had road closures for 3 days, that they would have, we would be driving business, into their doors during the festival, and that this would be positive for the community and for them.
Sure.
So
it felt like a totally different experience. I mean, because I've gone almost every year, and like you say, there's nothing wrong with the McPherson Complex. There was plenty of parking, and
but I mean, beautiful trees there.
You go, you enjoy the art, and then you
just leave.
Then you kind of leave. Yeah. Where we made a day of it, and we're able to pop into some of the other shops, and then go to the wine experience, and then have lunch, and so make a full day of it. And I think that benefits the vendors because people are there.
They're there
all day versus just a few hours, and then they leave.
Yes, there's a completely different range of amenities when you bring it downtown, and you can satisfy a wider range of patrons, and you keep people there, and ultimately they're happier, and then they spend more. And they spend more both with the artists and with the businesses. So it's a win for everybody.
And did you receive good feedback afterwards?
We did.
Good.
Yes, we did. And that event brings 20,000 people over the course of the weekend to it. And so when you move that venue, and host it in the downtown, that's a huge economic impact. The Downtown Gainesville Festival and Art Show that happens in November, they've done some studies, and that event has grown to where it pulls 100,000 people downtown. So hopefully, with this new partnership, we will increase the participation in the festival and have an even greater economic impact in the future.
That's great.
In Gainesville, they believe that their November festival brings in about $800,000.
Wow. Wow, we could use that. Sure.
Yeah, really.
Sure. And so
It's a big shot in the arm.
Was this a trial year, or are we going to see it back there now?
No, we have a commitment. We have a memorandum of understanding with Fine Arts for Ocala for the next 5 years, and our hope, the city's hope, is that this would go way beyond that. But we have committed to significant support to help facilitate this, not just my time, but there's a whole team from the city that helps make it happen. Park operations comes in, they help with street closures, traffic, assist us with street closures. We take care of we provide waste management support. OPD is there for security, and numerous other things. There's quite a few people that attend our meetings. So
I never really think about all the stuff that goes into
There's a lot of logistics
behind the scenes of something. You think, oh, it's an art show. There's tents and music and and art.
You don't realize.
Think about the facilities and the porta potties and the security and all the things that are just mandatory.
In the FAFO board themselves, they have 22 individuals on their board, and so their main focus is, they've got their 2 signature events, and they spend well over half the year, working on the Ocala Art Festival and the competition aspect, jurying the artists in, and then we work tirelessly, myself and their team, talking to the downtown businesses, working on the layout. What would be the best footprint for the event to come downtown, and really analyzing it and looking at the traffic pattern as a patron. How would you walk through it, and is this confusing? And our streets are a little bit more narrow than some community streets, and we have some sidewalks that are differing widths, and so you have to take all those things into account, and how the load-in process. I never even as a patron years ago or as a kid, never thought about, well, how does all this arrive?
Right.
And you don't just have the street closures and those needs, but we literally had waves where there were assigned times where different groups of 20 artists would come in on different streets and set up, and that was scheduled for a day and a half prior to the event opening.
Wow.
So it's a huge undertaking, and I have a lot of respect for the FAFO board because they're a working board.
Absolutely.
They come out and work that whole event.
Absolutely.
And their family members, too.
And I want to shift focus and talk a little bit about your art depot.
Yes.
Because when you were telling me about that, when I sat down with Melissa and she was telling me about all the wonderful things that she's been doing, of course I wanted to know what's in the pipeline. So she was telling me about the art depot. Explain what that's about.
Well, that resulted from the Ocala Municipal Arts Commission. We meet every other month, and it's fabulous to have all of our leading art organizations having a representative in one room at the same time, because a lot of collaboration happens at that time and fabulous ideas are brought forward. And Lori Zink from the Marion Cultural Alliance said, we just heard about this new art club that started at Bellevue Middle School, and they don't have an arts program there, and they're the one middle school that doesn't. And the children were frustrated, and they started their own arts club, and they ended up receiving a donation, and they bought some supplies. And isn't this inspiring?
Yes.
And isn't it a huge need? Like, what can we do, all of us working together, and to help our art educators and our students in Marion County? Because the public schools are really struggling. And so we all agreed and unanimously, yes, we need to get on board. Let's figure out what we can do. And what if we, put together a fundraising campaign just for art supplies? And we just focused on that. And we had executed a artist survey in June of last year, and one of the questions on the survey was, would you support a student art repository program? And there was a huge positive response to that. So we said, you know what, we'll do both. We'll raise funds for supplies, and we'll collect donation of supplies, used supplies, or we'll solicit to manufacturers and ask them for their leftovers, for their slightly damaged goods, and we'll have a repository. So that's what we're working on. We're very, very close to having an international service organization partner with us on the project, and working with the Community Foundation. We've already submitted an application for one grant program. We've got a bunch of other ones we're looking at, and the goal would be for the repository to be located at the train station. And I actually have a meeting later this afternoon about that with city staff. So hopefully we'll have a final go ahead on the program.
That's inspiring that it was like students that said, hey, we don't have an option for art, so we're going to create our own.
We're going to make it. Yeah.
And so because of that, it has now snowballed into something huge that's going to benefit everybody. Why do they take art out of school? Oh, it breaks my heart.
They're starting to fix that problem, though.
Yes, good, because to me it's like as important as math, reading, or anything else.
Yes.
I mean, maybe I'm a little biased being an artist.
It's hard to explain that to people who don't understand why it is, but but it is. There's no question about it.
Oh, no, definitely. I mean, to me, it's just as critical. And so, and obviously for children especially, because that might be an outlet. That might be how they end up loving math or loving science or loving literature is through art. So what in the world?
It's how archaeologists know that a civilization was advanced. Is by the art that they find, right?
Yes. Yeah. Right. Well, so you feel me on that. You know what I'm talking about. So,
I do.
So that's why when you start talking about the Art Depot, I mean, I've already been telling everybody about it, because I don't know how, I mean, even if it's just a couple boxes of crayons, papers, somebody that says, hey, my company always has leftover or whatever.
Yes.
People need to know about that.
Yeah.
Yes. So that's going to be exciting. So I want to get involved with that myself personally and try to help as much as I can in that regards. And
now that you open the door, I'll be knocking.
Okay, no, that's fine.
I should be receiving the award for the biggest pest in the community because I am relentless.
Well, it all makes a difference. I mean, people that appreciate art, even if you don't necessarily appreciate art, even if you're not an artist, you have to still understand how important it is to everyday life. I mean, there's art in everything that we do. And so the fact that even like the first Friday art walks and things like that, I mean, I've watched those things grow now from just being on the square. Now they're on the back roads and back streets, and it brings those vendors and artists together. And I think it's an amazing opportunity for artists.
It is.
Of course, that's something else that Melissa organizes. So, you've got a fan. Hi. So the first Friday art walks, tell us a little bit also about that, and if somebody were interested in getting involved, how they can go about that.
So the First Friday Art Walk occurs the first Friday of each month from September through May. It is an event that was spearheaded by a community member, and it kind of, unfortunately, he's no longer in our community, but it's really outgrew the scope of one person being able to execute it. So it's a little bit of an undertaking at this point. We have about 100 artists that pop in and out of the event throughout the season, and typically at any one event that you will find about 50 artists participating, and they set up individual artist displays throughout the downtown from 6 to 9 p.m. on that first Friday of each month. Right now, for artists to participate, there's a one-time $25 registration fee for the whole season, and then they can select whether they want to be in one art event or if they want to be in all 9. There's 9 in a season. And we have a steering committee, thank goodness. And there's representatives on the committee from the Downtown Business Alliance, Fine Arts for Ocala, Marion Cultural Alliance, a couple different downtown proprietors, the Ocala Civic Theater and Insomniac Theater Troupe, all have representatives on the steering committee. And so then they look at the registration forms and they approve them. The committee works together for a marketing strategy for each year and also for fundraising. And we all work real hard at it. And so we've got right now 9 individuals that participate in this, and then they're recruiting volunteers as well. The Westport High School sends us a team every event, and they help to distribute the maps downtown to the public and give bottled water to the artists and help facilitate it. And we've got tons of other folks. So it's quite a team to make it happen. And so I pretty much administer it. I create the event map. I help to create the advertising. I just keep things moving. So I'm the person to contact if somebody is interested. So they could, email is always the best. So my email is mtownsend, TOWNSEND, @ocalafl.org. Or they can call me. It's 352-629-8447. And we also have a website. You can download the registration form right on the website. And the website is ocalafl.org/artwalk. So those are the best ways to take a look at what we're doing or get in touch with me. And this has been really rewarding. It's a real need. The event is meant for everybody to participate in, and we have a lot of emerging artists that get their feet wet in this event. We're nothing like the Ocala Art Festival. This is a whole different animal, and it really helps to facilitate our growing artists and allow them to develop their talent, develop their marketing skills, and see what works, if the public's interested in their art. And we've been able to see quite a few folks turn what was a hobby into a career.
Yes.
So we know it's working. And recently I had a gentleman come into my office and then he sent me an email and he was like, I'm just so impressed. When I left here, 20 years ago, we didn't have anything like this in my town. And he's a graduate of Savannah College of Art and Design, and he's back here now. And he said, this is amazing.
Yes.
There's a platform, and if this was here when I was in school, I would have come home. I would have come back. Years ago, it wasn't an option. You were going elsewhere, if you were an artist, most likely.
Well, it's definitely being noticed. It's not going unnoticed. I mean, obviously, what you're doing has made such an impact that we said, this is our person of the year. She's making all these changes, and she's spearheaded these things. She's gotten involved. She's organized these things. And then there's so many things in the pipeline that we know are going to be of huge impact, not just to our adult community, but our youth as well. So we want to thank you for being here. I encourage people that have questions about FAFO, about the arts, about the Discovery Science Center, to get in touch with Melissa, because she's hopefully has the answers, or will know who can help answer those questions, because there's a lot of stuff.
Yes, I am happy to point you in the right direction if I don't have the answer.
Yes.
And I do receive a lot of those calls, and it's very rewarding to connect people. I enjoy making those connections and networking. And,
Yes.
and if I don't have the answer, I'll dig around and find it.
Very good. Well, and if you have not picked up January's issue, it's our black and white special edition issue. We encourage you to do that. Melissa's feature is in there. State of the City feature is in there. We have a beautiful photography spread in there, which is a cross-section of our community, and I hope we represented everyone well in that. And find us on Facebook, Ocala Magazine, and like us on Facebook and Twitter, so you can keep up with stuff. You know, we come out in the beginning of the month, but there's so many things happening throughout the month too, as well as events and announcements that we try to keep current there. So we want everybody to stay in touch with us and reach out to us in the event they have any questions. So thank you for being here. Have a great weekend.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Larry.
Thank you, Kelly. Thank you, Melissa. Great show.
Thanks.
We'll take a little break and be right back.
Ocala's information station, 1370 WOCA.